So, I had to take a break and take a shower and just, anyway. So, I guess I ended with having my hysterectomy and tumor removed, and so that was all great for about 2 weeks. Then, so we're going to start talking about bowel habits. Basically, and so this is a teaching thing, I think, that's something I want people to know, is that this is kind of a perfect example of how, or why it can be offensive when people say things like, oh, you don't still have cancer, or, the idea that it somehow ends just because you don't still have cancer. Because in my experience, not having cancer is actually when it all started. So, okay. So it started with, after my hysterectomy, it had probably been like, I want to say like it was like 2 weeks, and I had not gone to the bathroom, basically. And this is the first time I'd ever been like really constipated. And kind of a funny side note, I could not stop talking about it. It was all I could it was all I could talk about because it's all I could think about. It's just kind of funny that way. And either way, so I've been taking Miralax and all that stuff, and then it started with vomiting, and it was just uncontrollable. And so another kind of teachable thing is how something I learned at this time is how dangerous bowel obstructions can be. They can be deadly. And I don't know if someone had told me or my parents this or whatever, but I know that, once I'd started throwing up, my mom called my oncologist and they said, get her into the emergency room now. They took me in the emergency room, they did a scan, and I think they saw a bowel obstruction. So they put a NG tube down my nose, which actually made my parents go out of the room before because I wasn't going to be able to do it, like with people staring at me. But just kind of another moment, I was like, I have to tough this out. I don't know why. So much. Anyway, there's a lot of trauma that comes behind being able to develop a survival thing like this. So I don't want it for anybody. But anyway, so I had an NG tube, and they did an exploratory surgery. And exploratory surgery means that they cut me from here, from here all the way down through my, the scar from my hysterectomy. So, oh my gosh. Apparently they went through my intestines like this, so I heard. And so anyway, I woke up from that. Oh my gosh. Again, I'll preface with someone who's never sick before this, no real issues other than really painful period cramps. And they make you get up almost as soon as you wake up, I guess. And supposedly for your good, but ooh. When you just are cut like down the middle and stapled, and your body just feels like 1,000 million bricks. So I don't know if they, did they find something? Did they not? There's stuff that's really foggy for me, I think, of course, in hindsight. So between chemo brain and just, pain medicine and trauma and all that stuff. So they let me go. I want to say maybe 10 days or something. I was in the hospital. And there's another thing I don't really know exactly how it came about, but I must have gotten a fever or something like that. But it was determined that I had a staph infection, right where the incision from my hysterectomy was. So, which I said was laparoscopic, but I did have an incision like this big. So I guess it's partially done laparoscopic too. But either way, so found out that I had a staph infection. And so that was when that was when I first met my infectious disease doctor, Dr. Tickadillian, who I actually really love. And So anyway, I had to be on IV antibiotics nightly. So this meant that they sent us home. I must have went to the hospital, but they sent us home, like home delivery or whatever delivers an IV bag. We had to have like a hook and hang it on the ceiling. And my mom, every night, we had to hang this bag of IV fluids, and I had a PICC line and and give me antibiotics every single night. This is when I knew that learned that antibiotics are the worst. I mean, I think I felt worse than I did when I had chemo. I mean, just constant nausea, constant fatigue, constant everything. Not only that, but this is also when my social life started to die because I couldn't really do anything or go anywhere. I mean, I had to be home at a certain time to have my antibiotics every night. And then I was also just so sick from them. So for 3 months, 3 months, it took to get rid of the staph infection. Oh man, I was going to Dr. T weekly or getting my blood drawn weekly to get the numbers on the infection. So finally after 3 months, it went away. Yay. This is when I moved back in with my roommate. I was trying to, okay, I'm all healed. I'm all better. Okay, here we go. I moved back in. I went back to work. I was on short-term disability and working from home between that time. And it was a month. So I had started to have feelings of urgency. Like I had to go number 2, but when I would sit down, nothing was really coming out. And it would be a really little bit, right? And it just is starting to feel like bloated and full and gross, and I'm messaging my doctors and everybody, and what do I do? What's going on? Something's happening, something's not right, whatever. I don't feel like maybe I was taking that seriously, but whatever. I eventually made an appointment with a GI doctor and for a colonoscopy. So this was a month that this went on after the staph infection. So a month of wellness. I go in for the colonoscopy, and well, first of all, the prep didn't work. The first prep didn't really work, so I did another prep. I don't know that really worked either. So when they went into, apparently because they sedate you, when they went in to do the colonoscopy, I blew up, and my GI doctor said to my mom, "You need to get her to the emergency room right now." And of course my mom was like, I'm not taking her to the emergency room. Like, if something's really wrong, y'all need to get her over there. Like, which, that makes sense, right? So I guess I don't really remember this, but an ambulance went to the emergency room, blah. I do recall waking up in the emergency room, or coming to, and my family was there, my grandmother, my mom, my dad, blah, blah, everybody. And, this is when I found out that I needed a colostomy bag. So I had apparently become so obstructed that, my colorectal surgeon said that he literally said that he cannot believe I did not die. Like, I was that impacted, which is kind of embarrassing. I don't know, somehow I was literally full of shit. So there apparently was a stricture in my lower colon from the radiation, right? Stool was not able to pass through, and so it's just becoming impacted and collecting. And my colorectal surgeon told me that if I did not have a colostomy bag, I would die. And I will say that initially I said, y'all just gonna have to let me die. Because I don't know if I've said this before, but I will say it again. I sort of, for whatever reason, was like, I don't know that I thought immediately at the beginning of any of this colostomy bag, but just that's like the last thing anybody wants, So anyway, but then, the guy I was dating at the time seemed really understanding. My family was very supportive. They said it was going to be reversible, and I just needed to let everything chill out and blah, blah, blah. I was under the impression it was reversible. It came to my attention later that it was potentially not ever reversible, and that's just what they told me to get me to agree to it, which really sucks, because I really wish I had known that before I got my hopes up, but whatever. So at this point, I got the colostomy bag. It was about a week after I got the colostomy bag that my stoma ended up prolapsing, which was apparently due to the fact that I had been so, I don't know, my colorectal surgeon like kind of did this like size when he was talking about my intestines, but apparently after they started to deflate, when stuff started to move, that's what caused the prolapse. So the guy I was dating at the time took me to the hospital. The surgeon did it that night because it was like prolapse. It's like my intestines started coming out, not like stationary right there. So it was very quick and easy because the next morning I was better, and my mom came, and I think they let me go like later that day or the next day. And then started the frequency or urgency of needing to pee. I mean, I want to say a few weeks after this. So it started to just be more like, okay, every 3 hours. And it was just like this feeling of needing to pee. And then I couldn't pee. Or, and then it just got to the point where it was, and then I got my first kidney infection. And in hindsight, was probably the first time I ever had C. diff. Backtrack. When I got my colostomy bag, at the same time, they put in stents, ureter stents, which your ureters bring the urine down from your kidneys into your bladder, right? So they had mentioned at that time of the colostomy that there could be an issue with my ureters, and they were going to put these stents in, right, to help the urine flow. Well, so I got my first kidney infection, and it was not good. It just feels so sick. Anyway, and so that was kind of that. This was December of 2016. So this was just a year. So all that in a year. Yeah, I think that's probably enough for a video.